Marketer or
No,
Dwayne?
just Dwayne Cofield.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm going to do the same thing on my personal page.
Yeah, I'm glad you tagged me so I could just use yours.
Share. Share your timeline. Going live. I'm nervous now. Let it out. Okay.
Oh, that's right.
It's live. We got one watcher. That's cool.
You see?
Down here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Accelerated TV. We are part of the Accelerated Radio and Yikes Radio family, and we're here with the first ever show on Accelerated TV, founded by Kevin Nash, and this is Profit Driven Podcast. This is a podcast studio and more, and so we're excited to be here with you today. My name is Maisha Cairo, and I have with me Dwayne Cofield.
Hey, how's everybody?
And so today, as mentioned, we will be talking about profit-driven podcasts, and Dwayne is our guest speaker for the day, and he's got some good stuff for you. But I'm actually going to dive right in to just kind of set this up for you guys. In discussing profit-driven podcasts, we are going to be talking in a general sense about digital media. And how it can work for you as the content creator. So to begin, my slides. There we go. Are we up?
Yep.
Okay, awesome, you guys.
So again, we are here at Accelerated TV and Radio Studios in Los Angeles, California. And I'm going to start off with the subject of creating engaging content. If you're watching and you are a media influencer in some way that either complements your content with online stuff, or maybe that is where you are housed primarily, we are going to be giving you some tips today on how to create engaging content. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. First of all, creating engaging content, I'm going to give you 4 simple rules today, and they're very much in layman terms so that we can all get it and get excited. But before I start, I want you to ask yourself, what is your content and what are your goals with it? and we hope to answer questions. And if we do not, please comment on the video so that we can answer them after this presentation. So number one, know your stuff. Number two, be engaging. Number three, be consistent. And number four, use visuals. So we're going to jump right in. And Dwayne, since you are sitting with me, if you have any comments that you would like to add,
even though this is, what I set up, I would love for you to jump in.
Sure.
Okay, great. So how to create engaging content.
Number one, know your stuff. All right. Before today, I prepared. I prepared my slides. I prepared myself, and I took notes, and I did some research. So I am confident
in what I'm teaching. So first, when you know your stuff, please be confident. Number two, do your research. Number three, be clear. And know that you are the expert. So when you present something,
do
not second guess it. Know what you're saying. Know why you're saying it, and be ready to answer any questions about what you are saying. And if you don't know something, be okay with saying you're not sure, and you'll get back to them. Now, a lot of people who do podcasting, it's entertainment based. So knowing your stuff can be as simple as if you're presenting a song by Bruno Mars, maybe you can throw in some facts about Bruno, like he was raised in Hawaii. Or that he has a lot of funk beats that he samples, or that he's going to be in town and LMA Boot Up is going to be opening for him. Just know your stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's, you have to be an expert in whatever field you choose to get involved in. You have to know your stuff. You don't want to be called on any type of facts later on in the process of establishing a relationship with your audience.
Right, right. So moving on, again, we're going to keep this quick. Number one, in creating engaging content, know your stuff. Number two, engage your audience. The key to doing this, Dwayne, is what?
Engaging your audience is really knowing them, knowing what makes them tick.
Yes, and I learned this from Dwayne, so we go way back. You have to know who you're talking to.
Absolutely.
If you are talking about tummy time, I'm a mom, so if you're talking about tummy time, you have to know your stuff, right? So tummy time is just a fun term that they use for infants who are learning to grow their tummy muscles, and so you put them on their stomach. You got to do that every day if you're a mom. So obviously, I don't know if you guys are that might not be this audience, so me talking about tummy time might just totally go over your head. But you have to know your audience. You have to know why they're here. And so I'm assuming if you're following this page that you're either a fan of broadcast media, you have content online, or you are a broadcaster. Maybe you have a radio show. Maybe you are selling a product, but nonetheless, there is a digital space that you're trying to reach people. And so you need to know who you're reaching and why they're, what they're coming to you for. So demographic is this really big sounding word that's really, really simple. I am a black female that lives in Los Angeles, who has 2 kids, who works, drives in traffic every day. You don't have to feel sorry for me. I drive in traffic every day, and I have curly hair. So I am a black woman who has buying power in the LA space. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
So if you're talking to me, you might want to, in the LA area, hop on, if you're trying to advertise to me, you might want to target your Facebook ads, which I won't really dive deep because I think Dwayne's going to cover some stuff about that.
We'll talk about it.
But you might want to target your Facebook ads. If you're on Facebook, you might want to target it to a woman that is like me. If you're trying to sell tickets to a Britney Spears concert, well, she's kind of pop, so I think a lot of people like Britney Spears. But there is a target market. There is a particular radio station that I would advertise on, and it would be Kiss FM. And just ask yourself why, because I don't have too much time. But know your audience, know where they're consuming content, and make sure that you're talking to them. Instagram is like the biggest way right now to push content. So if you're, well, obviously it depends on your audience, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people are on Instagram. More people are on Facebook, but I'm kind of tangenting there, so I'll keep going. But just know where they're at, and know how they will understand what it is you're trying to give them. Moving forward on how to create engaging content, be consistent and follow up.
After you have targeted that audience, be consistent in reaching out to them. So for example, this is session 1. We're going to keep going. Dwayne has
a podcast. I'm doing a plug for you.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate it.
It's Drug Dealers to Businessmen, right?
Drug Dealers to Businessmen.
And who would you say your demographic is?
I would say any type of business owner. Where my main target is people who were in the drug trade who now made a transition into trying to be legitimate businessmen. So I target them because I have an experience in that field.
Absolutely. And so he's consistent. He does it every week. And we were talking about numbers. This particular session that we're doing, we didn't do much advertising for, but we're going to continue to do them. And so you might be watching this because you were watching session 5, and so you just went back because it was just such good content. So be consistent and follow up. If there's an Instagram feed that's trying to sell me shoes and it's the first post, I'm probably not going to buy from them because they don't have a consistent, how would you say, a consistent timeline of content for me to know that they're a legitimate business.
You got to establish a relationship with you. You can't try to sell me on our first interaction.
Exactly.
Give me some content. It's the law of reciprocity.
Amen. Exactly. And you have to be that go-to.
Absolutely.
And that goes back to the law of reciprocity. And follow up. Again, it's about a relationship. Anything you're doing online, be sure that you're talking to someone, you're giving them what they need. Eventually they're going to give it back. So if you're selling something, say you have a radio show and it's super entertaining, super good guests, how are you making money? Maybe you decide to have merchandise. That's how you're going to get back through that follow-up and that consistency. And of course, I don't mean to get deep, but make sure it's your passion, that you like what you're talking about, so that people can truly engage with you. I really like talking about this, so I hope I have you engaged. Okay, moving on to the last thing. Because you're in a digital space, digital is a visual thing. You're looking at your phone, you're looking at your computer, your laptop. Make sure that your visuals are I'm going to just throw this word, I'm using it loosely, but make sure they're professional, make sure that the branding is tight. If you don't know or cannot afford yet because you are starting something amazing, if you cannot afford yet to pay a graphic designer or a branding coach, there are a lot of tools online, so I'm going to drop a couple gems.
Sure.
I use Canva quite a bit. I pay $13 a month for the pro version, and I'm able to print things. I have another business called the Curl Squad, and with the Curl Squad, we're a meetup group for curly girls, but we have a logo, and it's being pushed all over the internet, and guess what? We created it. Me and my team, we kind of just talked about what we want, and one day we might pay someone who is a little bit more qualified in the graphic design field to create something better for us, but it's so working right now. And we're consistent in our brand. We have 3 colors that we use consistently. Accelerated Radio, it's a lot of red, a lot of black, there's some green, it's some white, but we know Accelerated Radio when we see it. We know Accelerated TV when we see it. With Dwayne's, Dwayne has a few brands. I know it when I see it because he's consistent in his branding. So make sure that your visuals are tight and make sure that they are presentable. And yeah, so some of the points I had here was artwork branding, be consistent in your themes and colors. Canva is a good resource. There's more out there. And that's pretty much it, but let me wrap up what I was covering, which was how to create engaging content. And you guys, this is just the basics. We can get deeper into this in the future, but there's 4 rules, you guys. Number 1, know your stuff. Number 2, be engaging. Make sure you know your demographics so that you know how to engage them. Number 3, be consistent. Don't stop at one post or one podcast or one flyer or whatever it is you're doing. Keep on and follow through and give your audience some of what they are looking for, not just what you want to give them. Dwayne was talking about the law of reciprocity and relationships. And number 4, make sure that your visuals are tight so that people take you seriously. And again, my name is Maisha Cairo, and Dwayne, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Maisha, that was amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. Great job. Content creation is one of the first parts of establishing a relationship with individuals. So I think that you covered everything. Of course, you can go deeper, but I don't think you should at this point because everything else is more strategic, and it require a whole nother part 2, part 3, or part 4 of this. So yeah, and I'll cover some things today. What I want to talk about mainly is just really where your audience is, and basically I don't know if my slides are up just yet, but I definitely wanted to introduce myself. My name is Dwayne Cofield. I am a lecturer at California State University, Los Angeles. I'm also a podcaster, business owner, a couple other things, but that's not why I'm here. The reason why I'm here is to talk about your digital tribe. And we're talking about profit-driven podcast, and one of the main things that we need to understand is as we're developing our podcast or we're talking about profits, we need to talk about the audience first. And this is a little bit about me if you want to follow me, whatever the case, but I'll move forward. Who is my tribe? And one of the things that I used to tell my students all the time is to start with an article by a gentleman named Kevin Kelly. And Kevin Kelly wrote an article called 1,000 True Fans. And it's an excellent, excellent article, but it talks about how to organically grow your audience and not try to satisfy the masses. When you try to satisfy the masses, you're really satisfying no one. So you really need to focus on developing your customer persona, meaning who is that ideal person that you're actually talking to. Because you're not if you were developing a product for everyone, how could you satisfy? Because Maisha has different tastes than I do, than Kevin Nash does, and so forth and so on. But if you target that one individual, they're hanging around other individuals as well, and you start to create a groundswell of a tribe. A tribe is a community of individuals who have the same interests, who like to buy the same things, who like to go to the same events, so forth and so on. And as you start to develop your podcast, you're going to want to look at who my audience is and who am I designing this content for. Maisha referred to my podcast. It's a pretty unique podcast because I don't want to target everyone. I want to target specific individuals who have this problem that I'm solving with my content. When you're thinking about content as well, you want to be solving some type of problem, or what is the purpose of me listening to you? So when you start to think about that, you want to start to develop your tribe, your organic swell, as some of us call it. And it starts with one individual. Once you develop your customer persona, meaning who that person is you're presenting for or you're designing your content for, then you can start to do other things. You can start to think about how that person interacts throughout their day. So you can start to figure out, like Maisha said, where to advertise for her. She likes, they have a meetup with curly hair. So now you may want to, if you want to target someone, a black female who's interested in hair, you can target them on specific things and get them to come to your website, listen to your podcast, so forth and so on. So you want to figure out who your tribe is, but I left a little thing in there in the presentation to Google Kevin Kelly 1,000 fans. I think you guys will really enjoy that. My monetization strategy. So we're talking about profit-driven podcasts. So whenever I talk about monetizing something, you have to first build. That's the first step in it, right? You want to build your audience up to let them know you're here, let them know what you're delivering, let them know when you're delivering it, as Maisha referred to, the consistency. You want to let them know a schedule or when it's going to be available, so forth and so on. And you want to give. You want to give your best. You want to give information. You want to give how-tos. You want to give blogs. You want to give white papers. You want to give so many different things because this is still dealing with the law of reciprocity. When you're asking for someone's money, if they don't feel like you've given them enough value, it's going to be really difficult for you to get that dollar from them. So, but if you deliver the kind of value, if you give them more than what they're looking for, they're looking for a reason to give you money. That's why it's so easy. Once you've established a relationship, you can sell more merchandise because they just want to be connected with the brand. All they want to do is be more and more part of the community, which was Foursquare's, when Foursquare was going on, and this is taking us back a little bit. When Foursquare was going on, it was part of a community, and you could rise within that community with rank and all that good stuff. And the same thing holds true with your community. Sometimes you may be able to look at some gamification or whatever the case, and that's a whole nother subject, and I'm kind of moving on. But once you give enough, then you can look at monetization, right? You can do appearances, you can do meetup group, you can do masterminds, you can do subscription things, and we'll talk a little bit more about that once we move towards Facebook. But you have to do these two components before you get to asking anyone for any money. You need to build and you need to give. Once you do those two, then it's a lot easier to ask for that type of money or whatever you're asking for, if it's a subscription based or whatever the case may be. This is a quote that I always live by when we're talking about digital strategy or digital media. And you can see my name is up there, not to give myself a quote or anything, but you don't need to be everywhere, but you need to be everywhere your audience is.
Yeah.
You don't need to do everything, but you need to understand where your audience is. Once you understand where your audience is, you need to be everywhere they're at. They need to be reminded of the brand that they're part of, and that's what you need to do. So you need to figure out, if my audience is on Facebook, I need to be on Facebook doing groups, live, whatever the case. If my audience is on Instagram, I need to go move over towards that as well.
Yeah.
They're on Pinterest. You need to be doing pins. You need to be doing that and delivering content there. So a lot of times you'll have skills type podcast where someone's teaching you how to do something, whether it be therapy or whatever the case may be, yoga, or a spiritual guidance sometimes. These are different types of thoughts, and you can create community with events outside of just the podcast. Yeah. And that's where the monetization really starts to kick in. Would you agree, Maisha?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any input on that?
No, I'm going to let you continue, but I just absolutely agree.
Okay.
You have to give before you can expect a return, whether it be financial or meeting somewhere outside of the digital space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about establishing relationships.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about your audience, it's like a dating game, right? It's a dance. You know, you have to go walk across the room, shake their hand, give them stuff before they want to actually even give you any type of, as we would say, rhythm. So you got to actually constantly be giving.
Yeah.
So one thing that there's a couple of things that we're going to focus on, but one thing I want you to know about your audience is they're traditional. Yeah, they're your tribe, but they still use the traditional medias. When you look at new media, a lot of times it's shiny, it's the new thing, but the traditional media still work extraordinarily well, and I'll show you guys some examples. Your website. Your website is your center of gravity. If you don't have a website, you don't have some type of establishment where all of your media is being housed, even if you're using other platforms, your website is still your center of gravity. It's pretty easy they've made it so easy with a lot of these drag and drop type softwares that you can build a basic website that just houses your audio. It could be replays from your show on Accelerated Radio, and you just house your replays over there. But you need some type of web presence, real basic one, www.whateveryourbrandnameiS.com. Buy the domain name and set it up to where you have a website. Once you have the website, then you can start to play with things like email marketing, which is really gold. A lot of people thinking, you know, we have all these new bells and whistles with digital in terms of bots and all these different things, but email is still a cash cow. You can see the statistic on your screen right now. For every $1 spent, there's a $32 return on email investment. A fantastic investment. A lot of people neglect their email list or neglect building them.
Email is key. In fact, if you don't get anything else, get the email.
Get the email. We've been doing this for the last 10, 12 years. When we were at KJLH, it was gold for us. We worked at KJLH together.
Yes,
we were an awesome team, I would say, too. But emails were a big deal. Every time we have an event, every time we come in contact with someone, we would try to get their email address, and people still check their emails.
Emails are such a big deal that actually, point in case last week, we just started the Curl Squad. It's hard for us to prove that we're a legitimate business, even though we are.
Right.
Amazon would not give us the rights to send out mass emails.
Right.
Because we couldn't prove how we got the emails, and it's from years of doing this.
Right.
But we're a new brand, so we couldn't prove it. That's how big of a deal email is.
Oh,
People are stealing emails.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean to jump in, but because
please.
it literally makes a business a lot of their
Sure.
money. A lot of their money.
Oh, email, email, and that's. You know, unfortunately, some people are using it the wrong way with the scams and so forth, but they're still using it. People still check their email.
Yeah.
When you get a message or a notification on your phone, you're going to check it just like text message.
Yeah.
If you can't get their email address, definitely get their cell phone number. Have a sign-up option on your website.
Absolutely.
One or the two, because those are the most direct contact that you're going to have with your audience.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to start to establish your list, and overall, the more people you add to your list, the more valuable it is. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So they're social. They are on social media, and are you maximizing your social media channels? Really easy to set up a lot of these channels, but I'll talk about two just for the sake of time. Thanks, Facebook, which is the behemoth of all social medias right now. Still the giant, still the most used social platform right now. Owns Instagram and a couple other things as well, a couple other messenger apps, but it's still the big deal. And there's a couple of things that you can do to extend your brand to have people participating and engaging with you. The first thing you want to do is set up a fan page. Set up a fan page with some of your graphics. Talk about when you're going on air, talk about everything related to the show, give them backstory, anything that you want to include. You can go live, you can show videos behind the scene of you preparing for the show. A lot of times people don't think everybody thinks content has to be wrapped in this shiny bow.
No.
And Maisha shows behind the scenes of when she's writing for the Steve. Can I?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
When she's writing for Steve Harvey or when she's doing J. Anthony Brown, she shows you behind the scenes. So if you guys aren't following her, you definitely need to follow her.
I have to give it up to J. Anthony Brown. He's a gadget guy. He's into, he has this camera called a Mevo, which helps your stuff look really nice. So if you can invest, it's cool, really cool, because it does that production aspect for you. But the behind the scenes, his fans absolutely love it, because they know him as what? On TV, on the radio, as a comedian on stage, and they get this organic interaction, you know, by seeing us put our gadgets together just like they have to, just to record content sometimes, because we're too busy to go to the studio.
Sure.
So it's great. Yeah. Sure. Great.
And if you want to see it, make sure you find at Love Maisha on Instagram. Follow her, because it's really, if you guys really want to see content creation in action, it's best to follow the experts. Don't just listen to us and pay attention to our PowerPoints. Follow us so you could actually see how she does it. She goes live a lot and shows you throughout her day, and is telling a story. Yeah. That's the thing about content of marketing. You have to tell a story with your product or brand. Beautiful. And Facebook is a beautiful place to start. You can actually also do private groups. Facebook just implemented a feature that's where you can actually start a subscription-based private group. Oh. Very nice, right? So that you can actually charge for people to belong to your private group. So this is another form of monetization. Yes. You can go live. Facebook Live, I go live every week with my podcast crew. You may not get a lot of like people watching at that time, but the replay, there's a lot of value in the replay. So just kind of focus on that. And Facebook Live gives you an opportunity to do that. You can schedule them. You can let people know when they're going to take place and engage your audience that way. It's an excellent, excellent free tool for you guys. Highly recommend you guys take advantage of that. Agreed. And Instagram, as Maisha said, it is going crazy right now. People on Instagram, they're spending a lot more time on there. The stories option has just gotten a lot better. It's becoming a lot more engaging. They're giving you a lot of tools to use. You can do polls. So you can kind of engage your audience in different ways, and you have to go out there, as some of us call it in the computer world, poking the box. You got to experiment. So you got to constantly try things. Instagram is a great experimentation tool. You can save your stories. Things last a little bit longer. So the first thing I would do is, one, set up my business page. Because once you set up your business page or your podcast page or whatever you want to call it, you'll get access to their insights. You'll get access to see how people are accessing your page. You're also able to put 2 other handles in there and your hashtag. So, and I don't know, you may be able to do that personally, but I know particularly on business page, that's huge, because a lot of times you may have additional brands. It may be a personal brand or whatever the case.
It has to be a business page.
Yes.
So if you are on Instagram and you're trying to avoid the fees and you don't turn your page into a business page, you're missing out, because the analytics are amazing, and it's on a free level. They do that so that you will agree to pay for some ads. Sure. But you're right. It has to be a business page.
Sure, absolutely, and it's great, because there's so many things you can do with the live. You can actually bring people in to your live. Like we were going to go live before we started this, and I was going to ask Maisha would just bring me in to the live, and we could have had basically a talk show kind of format on a social platform. So now you could take your show where you're doing it in Accelerated Radio, and then have a after hours to where you're doing your live, right? And you just give them a small segment of you, because this is an audio format. People don't actually see you all the time, and this is a great opportunity to introduce yourself. They are mobile. So if you guys aren't really looking at mobile, this is a really big deal. And it's been, I know the conversation's been going on this year, the mobile for the last 5 years, but if you look at any Google Analytics or anything like that, you'll see mobile consumption is huge. And people are consuming media on mobile, podcast, internet radio, you name it, they're consuming it on their mobile phone. And you can see 1/3 of the people on the smartphone access it's their primary internet. And if you're talking to a global audience, and some of us have more global audiences, people that are listening in different parts of the world, sometimes the mobile phone is their only access to the internet. So if you don't have any type of representation from a mobile standpoint, you may be missing out. There's 3 different aspects that you could talk to. SMS, which is your traditional text message. There's a couple applications. We used 844.com back in the day, or whatever it was. And there's a lot of different applications where you can store your cell phone numbers and actually send messages out to them, depending on how you interact with them and what type of permissions that you have. There's laws on that, so you want to make sure that you have a permission to send them messaging, and that they have the opportunity to opt out whenever they want to. And you can put stop on there, and there's different messaging software that you guys can just pretty much Google and find out. But one of the main topics that I run across when we're talking about digital is, do I need an app or do I need a mobile site? And there's two different schools of thought on that. So a mobile site right now, the software that's out there, well, a lot because before this, when you would set up your website and you tried to have it on a mobile phone, say for instance somebody tried to access it on a mobile phone, it may look completely different, and the buttons are different, and the experience, the user experience is totally different. Well, now they've made it to where they have more adaptive software, right? So that when you do design on a site like WordPress or Wix or whatever the case may be, it will adapt to a mobile platform, tablet or whatever the case may be, which kind of defeats the purpose on having a mobile application. Now, from a mobile application standpoint, an argument towards that is that you can do a lot more creative things than you can with a mobile app, and it gives people a little bit more direct access to what they need and take advantage of a lot of the things that the phone already has, like the camera or anything like that. You can do a lot more functions with a native application. It's going to be a lot more expensive, and you're compromising the individual's data on their phone. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about it. I'm neither way. I'm not leaning either way. I'm just kind of giving you the background of both. They're watching video. So why video? 75% of millennials watch video on social media daily. People are watching video. You need to do some type of video, even if it's a video introduction for your podcast that they're about to go listen to. Nobody wants to read anymore. They'll read a little bit, but they're not going to read a lot. 32% of consumers engage with a brand video on YouTube. So if you have a brand on YouTube, we're actually on YouTube right now, people engage with you. They'll leave comments, they'll like, they'll share, they'll do all that good stuff. And the last statistic, if you look at that, if you're really trying to sell something, product videos can increase purchases by 144%.
Wow.
So just by having some type of demonstration video or something like that, especially if you're selling a hard physical product, showing them how it actually works will increase people purchasing your product. So you definitely want to look at video. Also, if a video and there's text on the same page, people are more likely to read or watch the video. So if you have a video on your blog, that's probably going to get more clicks than people actually reading it. So you could write about it for SEO purposes, but if you have a blog, you want to include some video so that people can actually engage with it. The numbers say that they are going to engage with the video. I would stick with trying to include some type of video. Synergy. And if you guys aren't familiar with the concept, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And when you look at traditional digital, video, social, and mobile, they all work together. They're not anything that works in its separate silo. They all work in unison. And the center of gravity is usually your website. So everything starts from your website and then branches out. And then you kind of take social. You may do a video, but you're going to use it on your social platform. It's also going on mobile. You're sending it out to your customers as well, a brand new video. And you're also sending it out to your email list on your traditional, with your traditional digital. So when you look at your overall digital plan, it needs to be synergistic. It needs to include all these components, and you can't neglect not one because your audience is there.
Amen.
So the future, these are some statistics. I'm quite sure you guys seen some in the intro video that talk about the future of podcasting. Podcasting is huge. It's going to be even bigger as we grow. Once the cars start changing and including more of the Apple software, a lot of the Android software, people are going to start stumbling across these podcasts because the way they used to stumble across radio stations, they're going to stumble across podcasts now based on content, not necessarily what's available, but what am I interested in? What do I feel like hearing right now? What kind of mood am I in? Am I feeling kind of down? Do I need to hear a podcast that's going to lift me up? So you're going to see people start to do more and more of this. You're going to see more conglomerates coming together. Kevin's already, Accelerated Radio is already moving forward towards this, providing you guys a platform to record podcasting and really branch it out to who you need to. Podcast listeners are more likely to own smart speakers, which is something that we haven't talked about a lot. But as these smart speakers become better and better, people are going to access content on those smart speakers. Podcasts, you can put them on your smart speaker, which is going to ultimately increase your data, your base, right? So as this technology starts to move forward, it's something that we really, really need to look at. And if you're not creating for these platforms like Alexa Skill and like Google's platform, Alexa will actually allow you to put your podcast on there as well. And a lot of people don't know that. So not only will people hear you on Accelerated Radio, but they'll also hear you on Alexas as well. So you're really trying to get your content out to as many people as you possibly can. And content podcasts are the #1 audio source by the time of consumption among podcast listeners. So podcast listeners primarily just listen to podcasts. So you can create a loyal audience by developing your podcast audience, right? Developing that persona and really speaking to your tribe. You have to speak to your tribe, and you have to give them attention. As Maisha said, this is not something that you need to pick up and set down. People like attention, and they love their brands paying attention to them. So you as a brand really need to pay attention to it. Couple resources for you guys, some suggested reading, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up and open it up for questions as well. This is Entrepreneurial You. The first one on your left is by Dory Clark, and it is a pretty good book about developing your brand. It talks about blogging. It talks about developing your podcast. She's a Harvard professor, really knowledgeable, and it basically telling you how to set up your brand for success from all standpoints, not only from a digital standpoint, but from a blogging standpoint and also from a podcasting standpoint. The Automatic Customer, the book in the middle with the white cover, this book is talking about how you develop a subscription-based business, right? So a lot of you guys are trying to figure out how you monetize that audience of yours, right, to develop some profit off of your podcast. This is how you set up your automatic customer. This is how you set up a subscription-based business out of any business. Excellent book, highly recommended. The last one on your right is Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. He's a podcaster. I highly recommend you guys listening to his podcast for just technique, how he interviews. He has a lot of interviewing techniques in that book. They give out a ton of resources in terms of software, things that would just overall help your podcast out. What mic do you use? And a lot of this stuff is already provided for you guys by Accelerated Radio, which is one of the benefits of coming here and housing a lot of your business here or your brand here, because you don't have to pay for a lot of the resources. Only thing you should be focusing on here is developing your audience and really super serving them, because the infrastructure is already here. Some podcasts that I would suggest listening to is The Blog Millionaire. And the reason why I suggest The Blog Millionaire, that's all the way on your right, is because he talks about monetization strategies that will that you can not only practice on air with your podcast, but you can practice on a blog as well. So it gives you a lot of tips and tools in order to be successful in that space. The second one is Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn. And that one is about how to make passive income. So a lot of affiliate marketing type deals, anything like that that's related, so you can kind of back off and just kind of let your money come in. The one next to him, which is NPR, How I Built This. This is more inspirational, gives you an idea on how people have built their businesses, where they started from. Just hopefully gives you guys some inspiration that, one, brands take a long time to build, so you guys need to really be patient with yourselves. Brands take a long time to build, and there's a lot of strategy involved in that. And I think a lot of these tools will help you guys. The last one on the right is JLD, that's John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneurs on Fire. He came up with a podcast where he was delivering a podcast literally every day. And the thing about Pat Flynn and also JLD is they also put their income numbers related to their podcast on there. So those two guys will tell you how much they're actually making off their podcast via commercials, sponsorships, and the whole nine. And they put their monthly incomes, and it's extraordinarily high. So they're definitely two I would suggest listening to just for inspiration and some techniques.
Dwayne, before you finish, we
Sure.
just want to let the audience that is watching, because we do have some people watching, know that you can go ahead and ask questions, and when we wrap up, we will go ahead and answer them. So go ahead.
Yes, please. If you guys are checking with us on any of the lives, we'll try to get with the questions and whatnot. The last one at the bottom is Social Media Marketing by Michael Stelzner. He tries to do it on a weekly basis, but it's basically a social media podcast on everything social media. He gives you tips on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Facebook, tips, free tips, a lot of jewels, gives you a free app every episode, but a lot of jewels involved. And most of these people you'll see, and the more important thing I'm trying to show you guys is how much they actually give, right? Which makes it a lot easier for them to monetize that audience because they give so much. They give a lot. Okay.
Also, if you are watching and you'd like to call in, you have any questions, you can give us a call at 310-910-9676, extension 2. Once again, that's 310-910-9676, extension 2.
This is a really good time for you guys to ask us anything you want. You have two people that are knowledgeable about this space. You want your brand questions answered, this is the time to do it. We're trying to give you jewels, and we have a lot more. We just had to pack it into these presentations, but the questions that you guys ask on a regular basis, or just, you know, your normal business questions, are probably the most relevant to us.
Yeah, thank you guys for all the love. Do you want to start shouting some people? You have a couple more slides.
Yeah, just my last slide. If any questions, make sure you guys check me out on my handles, my Motivated Marketer, at the Motivated Marketer on Instagram, or at Dwayne Cofield on LinkedIn. You can also check out my podcast on both Apple iTunes and also Google Play. It's Drug Dealers to Businessmen. Appreciate the plug.
And you guys, just to give a little background, we Kevin Nash, everyone knows he works at KJLH, and we prior worked at KJLH without it being written on the walls. We were the first two people to kind of help start the digital space for the station. You know, back in, I believe, like 2010, 2008, something, a while back, you know, when it was first kind of created. And so Dwayne is an amazing resource who has moved on to just being an expert marketer for his own brands from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And so we did get some love, Dwayne, so we want to shout out some people before we go. Again, that request line is 310-910-9676, extension 2. Let's see here. We have right here on Facebook Live, a lot of people are saying hello, but we do have some questions. Let's see. Sheila Timberlake, can you use Cash App on your website?
That's a good question. I know a lot of people are using that as a resource. It's a mobile application. I'm not sure about the desktop application. We'll have to research that. Yeah, that's a great question. But I know it's a mobile application. But how do you mean in terms of I'm assuming that you mean in terms of somebody paying you with the Cash App. Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to get back with you.
I believe, and again, we can get back to be certain, but I believe the Cash App does allow you to provide a link. And so if you're able to put that link on the website, then I think you can make your way, but you're supposed to pay through your phone.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That is the purpose of the Cash App, but we'll get back to you guys on that. Let's see. Lacey Robinson is just loving it. She said good information. And she did have a question. Let's see here. She's just really excited. Thank you for watching so much. What program do you recommend using for caption on all videos?
There's a few programs out there. I'm not big on the captioning. I know Kevin has a program. Kevin may be able to come back in here and kind of tell us on that. That's good, Corey. We'll have to get back with you on that as well.
Okay, what would you guys say is a good move for a pastor to merge his ministry followers with his online audience? I want to build a brand that is strong, that's just stronger than just a local church, amen, and was thinking about merging the two as a single tribe.
You want to go first on that?
It's all about integration. There's a lot of ways to integrate what you have in an online space. And from, that's a good question. How do you get your physical audience to follow you on the internet, Dwayne? I would say ask them for their emails. Tell them to follow you on Facebook. There's some stuff that we can't just have them just click a button and do. So if they're sitting in front of you, hey, Dwayne, can you follow me on Twitter?
Yeah.
My Twitter is @LoveMaisha.
Sure.
So I would think that that's a way to do it. If you want to capture their information and then push out yours, you can try that. And what do I mean by that? Dwayne mentioned email marketing. He mentioned text marketing. Anywhere that you can send a link to them. So maybe on Sunday service, you can ask them. I know my church, I don't know if this is something all churches want to practice, but whenever they do a special fund every October, so whenever we give to that fund, they give us a special gift. So maybe you could tell them, hey, if you give me your email and your text information, which is just your phone number, you can pick up this special gift after service. Maybe this book by Pastor so-and-so, and maybe with that information, you could then purchase the email marketing website, which I know you had MailChimp and Constant Contact. Those are great resources. Worth every penny. Do not be intimidated by the price. It's literally worth every penny.
And, really quick.
No, go ahead.
MailChimp, the first 2,000 emails, you got them free. So if you're trying to build your list, maybe start with MailChimp.
MailChimp is good. So if you have a church if you have 500 in your congregation, you could use MailChimp free indefinitely and continue to grow that list. And if you have more questions on how to set that up, please do shoot us a message right here on Facebook. I see that's where you asked your question. But MailChimp, in Constant Contact, you can plug that information that they gave you because they gave you permission, and then you can send them a newsletter with links to your online platform. Does that answer that question?
No.
Do you have anything else to throw in?
No, I would just say start with why. You know, what's the point? You know, why do you want to have them in that space? You know, why do you want them online? What are you going to do different online? And I know sometimes it's an uncomfortable question because we may not have the answer, and we may think that just we have to do everything. But find out. This is a time, you know, there's a time to survey your audience. Ask them, are you guys online? What do you do online? You know, this is maybe an opportunity to do an in-person survey to find out what you do online.
Yeah.
How do you serve them online? You know, you may find out that half your congregation of baby boomers spend half the day on Facebook.
Yes.
And that you need to do a Facebook group, and that you need to go live on Facebook with some of your sermons before Sunday. Maybe you need to do a Friday sermon so that people don't do anything on Saturday night. Start thinking about those things. You can get really creative with your content and give them a reason. It all starts with why.
Yeah, I love that. There's a pastor who did 30 days with me. He was going through some series in preparation for his birthday.
Yes.
And our church has about 5 to 6 pastors, and so we don't get to hear from them all the time.
Okay.
So we became very engaged on his Facebook. He was just putting out daily devotionals, not very long, but it's pastor, I don't want to say his name, but we wanted to hear from him because we don't hear from him every Sunday. Again, that request, the call-in number is 310-910-9676, extension 2. Someone's asking why surveys.
Surveys give you an opportunity. There's a couple ways you can do that too, and I'm glad you guys asked about surveys. Surveys, you can incentivize people on surveys too. So you can give away a gift card. Hey, you get a chance to win a gift card, whatever the case may be. And what happens with surveys is you get people to be honest with you without having to tell you in your face. A lot of times people are more honest in a survey in a private setting rather than you asking a question and say, for instance, everyone's in the congregations there, how many people are on Facebook? You know, people are going to. But if you ask in a private setting, you know, you give them the opportunity to answer privately, people are a lot more honest and are a lot more apt to do that. So you know, and you could do online as well. You know, one of the things I didn't talk about that I wish I would have was the suite of Google products. Google has a lot of products that you guys can use for free. Google surveys, you can set up surveys for free. You can actually, if you wanted to go online and purchase people, but you could set up a Google survey, send a link to your people, and they can answer the questions accordingly. Google also has their Drive program, which allows you to store slides and do all this stuff if you need to do presentations. So Google has a lot of free products that are available that can actually help you guys find out information about your audience. And Google Surveys is another really good thing to start with. Also Google Trends.
Google Surveys is great. I've used that. Yeah, awesome. What is the best app to use on your website to receive donations other than PayPal?
I like PayPal.
Me
I mean,
too.
you know, I don't know why. You know, sometimes we'll forget our passwords or whatever the case may be. But PayPal's pretty much the leader in that space. I mean, Square. I think Square has some opportunities as well. Square is great, but you know, PayPal I've seen, and they give you that donation portion where you can actually receive the donations on it. So I wouldn't steer away from PayPal. I don't know anything better.
I personally use PayPal. I actually use it for my bookkeeping. I'm not advising people do that, but that's how I keep track of my bookkeeping, my invoicing.
Sure.
I love PayPal. However, if that is not what works for you, Dwayne mentioned Square.
Square.
And depending on the website that you build on, they might have it's called a merchant, I believe.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, we can do some research for you guys and get back to you. But depending, say you're with Wix, that's something that you can look in the apps that are available to see who else they have for you to process your money. And from what I hear, Dwayne, I love PayPal.
Yeah.
But I hear these merchants take less from you when you purchase a ticket or you get payment for a service or what have you.
And PayPal has its limitations too. So once you get if you set up your website and you go with a whatever commerce package that they have, their e-commerce package. A lot of times they'll use Google. They'll use Google Store, like I think Weebly or whatever it uses Google Store, so or Google Shopping or whatever. So a lot of times they'll have commerce packages already in there that are really really great, where you don't necessarily have to use a PayPal link or whatever. But PayPal is kind of an all-inclusive deal.
Yeah.
They have some
We're
limitations.
writing for PayPal.
Yeah, and they they have that seller's protection. So if
Yeah.
you ship everything through PayPal, you'll get your money, and just in case you deal with any scammers.
Now I'm going to ask Kevin off camera because Lacey really wants to know, Kevin, what program do you recommend for captioning all videos?
Like a capture card?
Captioning, I believe, is she talking about like her lower thirds?
Putting the words, right? Yeah, the words on there.
Is that what you're talking about? I think that's what
Yeah.
she's talking about. The lower thirds on the bottom.
A lot of the like TriCapture usually has that already built.
A lot of them already have it built in. YouTube, I think, has a feature where you can actually do that as well.
Do the lower
So, yeah.
thirds.
As far as using an HDMI camera.
That is what she's asking, just the lower third.
It's a great product. The shuffle intensity is also good. It's very, very cheap. So if you're looking to just use a regular camcorder to input it to your computer, try the Black Magic product.
The Black Magic products, if you're using a regular camcorder to record your content and you want some lower thirds or some captioning, what did you, it's called the Black Magic products?
Yeah, just look at the Black Magic.
Yeah, but if you're purchasing an actual software, is that correct?
Yeah, well, the other one, now I kind of have more idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, even from a Facebook Live standpoint, they have a software called BeLive TV,
Okay.
BeLive.tv, and will actually record, it will have a whole, like, office where you can share your desktop and all that stuff, and it records
wow.
specifically on Facebook Live, and you can actually put your branding, your lower third in there, and you can actually build a custom frame if you're skilled like that.
That's very new to me, so I wouldn't have known how to answer that, but that's
BeLive
awesome
TV.
information.
Only for Facebook Live, though. It's only for Facebook
And
Live.
that goes back to like what we were talking about, making sure that your packages, is presented well. I mean, pretty soon we're all going to have lower thirds on the bottom.
I think so. I mean, who are we,
Do it
right?
now.
Yeah.
Do it now. Let's see if we had any other questions. We had a lot of comments, a lot of love.
Sure.
Thank you guys
Thank
for
you guys.
watching. Terry Johns, thank you so much. Sheila Robinson Timberlake, thank you. We answered those questions. Let me see if we have anything else. I think that's about it. Thank you so much. Let me see. Is there anyone else? Lulu said Accelerated Radio is the best.
Ditto.
Nikita White, thanks for watching. I think that's it as far as questions. Let me see. We might have one more down here.
Quest line is still open, 310-910-9676, extension
2.
2.
Extension 2.
So dial in. If you
So-
guys have questions, come live with us.
I would like to do a plug for Accelerated TV. This is the first broadcast. We are located in Los Angeles, California. If this looks like something you want to do, maybe you have maybe you want to talk to the masses about, we had a pastor watching. This is a great studio for you guys to utilize. This content, what is a good time frame for video content? Is that a hint?
Yeah, are you
kidding.
trying to tell us something?
I'm just kidding. It depends on what it is. It goes back to that. We finished our presentation in about 30 minutes, and that was 2 people. And you guys are asking questions, so we're here a little bit longer. But it just depends on what you're pushing out.
Sure, I totally agree. I mean, the average attention span, if you want to just kind of use statistics, is 3 to 5 minutes, just for more popular viewing. But there's 2 different forms. There's long-form content, and then there's short-form content. Long-form content, people expect to be there for a long period of time. So you can create both, right? You can create long-form content and then create short bits out of your long-form content in small 1 to 2 minute segments.
Which
right?
is great for social media.
Sure.
YouTube webinars, it's a little different. You can go longer. But social media, you have to push out the good, the quick. So just clips of what happened, right?
Yeah.
Or what's going to happen. So I think Instagram is at 1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah.
And in stories, it's, I think, 15 to 30 seconds. So just keep that in mind. It just depends on what you're pushing out.
Sure.
So if we have any more questions.
Oh, we got a call.
We got a call.
Sure.
Cool.
Hi, caller.
Hello.
Hi. How are
Hi,
you?
good evening, Maisha and Dwayne. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
Who are we talking to?
Awesome. I'm Shatia, and thank you so much for all this great information.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a blank canvas stepping into this, and you guys are taking my hand and leading the way, and I'm so grateful for that because I wanted to know what would be the best way to get started. I'm feeling like the base on that and targeting your audience. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what is it that you do?
Pretty much inspire and encourage people, and I'm kind of just like a conduit for God. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I have a special gift, and I want to know how to build on that.
How does she build on that?
So one of the things I always say is, you'll hear this term a lot, is the riches are in the niches. And when you talk about going after a specific audience, you want to niche down and say, okay, now who is that person actually I'm talking to? Is it someone that looks like me? Is it me? Because a lot of times it can be you, and if it's you, what other people around you would benefit from this type of message, right? So you can start to target similar problems. So a lot of times people will target women who like have been through spousal abuse. So if that's a particular niche, women who have had babies young, all types of different, and you can focus, and the main thing is to find that focus. It could be women entrepreneurs.
Right.
And Maisha could definitely speak to more to this, because
it's so funny because the leader of my women entrepreneur group just hopped on, and so she's very inspiring. Her name is EJ. She had a show here. But yes, so how do you get started? If you are looking to move into a digital space, there's a lot of options to push inspirational content. That could be through a broadcast like this, which was a visual broadcast, maybe through a podcast. Maybe you just come up with those 1 minute little clips that you could put out on social media. And maybe your what did you call it? Your hub, your website's your hub. Maybe you can have a blog there. And Dwayne kind of spoke to that, meeting your audience in several different ways, and then housing it in one place and knowing who it comes from. So, for example, I'm just going to throw someone out there that we all know, or maybe we don't, Joyce Meyer. She has books, right? But from a new media standpoint, Joyce Meyer's on. We're going to wrap it up in about 3 minutes, you guys. So if you have a question, please go ahead and ask now. But like Joyce Meyer is on Instagram, and she does the 1 minute sound bites. She's pushing her content on Facebook, and she has a website, and they have a blog, and they have email marketing, which they send devotionals out. So they send the meat in that email marketing. So it's that law of reciprocity. Then they have links to purchase and donate at the bottom.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's just an example that came off the top of my head as far as inspiration.
Sure. And one of the things I want to touch on too is giving them an opportunity to give to you.
Yeah.
If you don't present the opportunity, they can't buy it. They can't give. They can't do any of that. So make sure those things are available. Your buttons for donations, your buttons for your products. But start with your website. You definitely want to have a website so that you can have something to monetize. You know, this is the part where you're giving. What you're giving from the podcast standpoint, that's part of the giving process.
Yeah.
The transactions take place in the back end.
Yeah. And so really quick, if you do have a podcast that you are advertising, that you are recording out of an internet station, I highly recommend you get your own branding and you also push the content. Kevin has created an amazing studio where you can utilize the tools here, but you cannot rely on his platform alone to push your content.
Absolutely.
So everything we discussed today will help you push that out so that your purpose can go farther than just these four walls and this studio alone. So this has been Profit Driven Podcast Session 1 with Dwayne Cofield. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Kevin, for allowing us to do this. This new studio is amazing. I'm like thinking of other things that can be done with it. So if you're interested, give Kevin a call. Accelerated Radio. I'm assuming, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, 310-910-9676, or go to AcceleratedRadio.net. Yes. All right, you guys. We are going to wrap it up. I think we have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Before we go, since we have 30 seconds, they like your quote, the riches are in the niches.
The riches are in the niches. So make sure, if your audience is small, doesn't mean they can't spend money with you, right? They could spend a lot more money. Another book you guys want to read is Super Consumers by Eddie Yu. Talks about super consumers. You want to read that one as well.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Bye.